is ASTV Night, the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast, with Macka, Brian, and Trevor as always. And then we should possibly have a guest today. We'll go for a foursome, a flat back four, or in our case, lads, a fat back four, probably. I don't know. I haven't touched the salad in 10 years, so I definitely qualify. But tonight is a special episode. We're going to talk about top threes because it's International League and nothing happens that's interesting apart from Robertson possibly getting a shoulder injury. But we will leave that for the coffee lads tomorrow morning. For anybody who's watching, if you're an EPL fantasy show fan, there will be no show tonight. It's just us lads flying the Thursday night flag as always. But tonight's topics are just a nice little fun meander down memory lane. We have Brian and we have Trevor. Trevor, how are you?
Fantastic. It's ASTV time. Why wouldn't I be great?
Oh, there you go. And Brian, how are you tonight?
I'm in a very much better mood than I was yesterday. But yes, I'm great.
It's Thursday night. There's no reason to not have fun. It's nearly beers o'clock Friday, as somebody should say somewhere. But here's what we are going. There you go. I've got soda. I'm being good tonight. So here's what we're gonna do for our first topic tonight. We are gonna talk about top three Liverpool strikers to never win the league, and they must be from 1991 to 2010. So essentially, bookending Kenny Dalglish when he left and when he rejoined. Essentially, that period of time when we had Graham Souness, Roy Evans, the fantastically brilliant and legendary Gerard Houllier and Rafa, and then some sort of board type human hybrid that manages for a wee while, plus all the caretaker managers in between. So, because it's my topics, I'm going to start with mine. My top three in no order of strikers who should have won the league and didn't with Liverpool. And for me, my number one, bar none, is Luis Suarez, because I think just the excitement he brought to the league on his own, it deserved that league. Oh, hang on, Luis Suarez is past 2010. Yeah, forget that part. That was a different list. My first one is Michael Owen. Left in a cloud. There's absolutely no doubt about the cloud that he left in at Liverpool. Gone to Manchester and all the stuff that goes with it. But he was one fantastic player. From 2002 to 1998, to 2002, I will say, before he got injuries that hampered him. A little pocket dynamo. An absolutely fantastic goal scorer and fast as lightning. And as the commentator says on the clip, he won the FA Cup all by his own little self. My number two would be, you would think Robbie Fowler, but I think I would have liked to see Stan Collymore win the league title with Liverpool because he was the big deal. We knew Fowler was fantastic, but Collymore was supposed to be the missing piece of the attacking puzzle for that 3-5-2 Roy Evans team with John Barnes in midfield. Oh, how stupidly silly we were and innocent in those days, because Collymore was never the answer. But on his day, probably the equivalent to what we think we're getting with and hope we're getting with Darwin Núñez, what we thought we would get with Andy Carroll, but we did actually get occasionally with Stan Collymore. And then my last one would be Nigel Clough. A fantastically cultured player, absolutely brilliant at Nottingham Forest, but again, another missing piece player, but never quite had the impact we hoped. Alan doesn't agree. Alan's not too sure about that Stan Collymore call. But here's the thing. Make sure you're commenting about all of our choices tonight. That's the whole point tonight, is to get involved and tell us what you think. Jamie,
this is a very interactive show tonight.
This is the interactive show tonight. But yeah, so that was my three. Michael Owen, Nigel Clough, and Stan the Man Collymore. Those are my three choices. We'll go with Brian. What are your three, and do you disagree with any of mine?
Okay, so my three, I'm going to start with my first one right there, Dirk Kuyt. I mean, the work rate and stuff like that we had from him during his time period right there, I mean, to me was phenomenal. And I think he really deserved to actually lift the trophy, even though we were so close, especially one and then there, but it never happened. Uh, my second one is one you didn't choose was Robbie Fowler. I mean, Robbie Fowler came there and gave gave a lot to his club. I mean, he still represents the club. I mean, I think that everybody wants to go with the whole Spice Boys era stuff like that with Fowler, but he came back, had 2 stints with the club, and I think that he totally deserved to actually win a title. And then my third is Fernando Torres. I think that Torres right there totally came to deserve his relationship that he had with Gerard during that time period was so amazing to watch. The chemistry there, I mean, it was a time period right there we definitely should have won the league. As far as your choices, I mean, I can't not not complain. I'm not Michael Owen would probably be the one that I have the most problems with right there, just because of how he left the club. I didn't get to see him up in Connecticut right there before he left at 2004 when he came there and played against Celtic, and it was like, okay, that was on the cusp of him leaving like 3 days later, and I was kind of bitter about it. It's like, okay, yeah, you think you're that great to go to Real Madrid, and he's got kind of tossed aside pretty quick. But anyway, that's where I'm at.
We've got to go with Trevor's three, and then I'll make a point about Brian, and then I think our special guest might be coming on. Go ahead, Trevor. What are your three?
Now I feel like an entire biter because Brian's list is my list, so I need to put my own spin on it. Okay, because all right, Robbie Fowler is one of the reasons why I became a Liverpool fan, and we'll get over this, and I'm sure there's things that are coming out via certain channels. I became a Liverpool fan via a video game, and it was because Robbie Fowler and Steven Gerrard were the only people I could score outside of the box in said game. So Robbie Fowler, I didn't even know about the whole God complex behind his whole deal. And Fernando Torres, the Nike ad, should I say more than that? He got so much from that. And Dirk Kuyt was absolutely one of my favorite players. Just that guy that you didn't want to run into in a back alley. He was like,
that's because of his face, though.
Yeah, he was like 5'4", but he also looked like he would kill you 9 times over. Dirk Kuyt, absolute just gem of a human being, gem of a player. Yeah.
So
Bickler knows what's up.
Bickler knows. But here's my question though for Brian. You had Torres on your list, but not Michael Owen, and they both left in extremely horrific circumstances in terms of how they treated fans. What's the difference?
So, if you read into what Torres' latter interviews said, this wasn't actually Torres making that move. This is kind of a forced move that happened to him in there. Versus Michael Owen, who actually came there and said, "Hey, I'm putting a transfer request right there, basically, and because I'm not going to agree to your contract, and I think I'm better than what I am." Torres basically was we had Hicks and Gillette, the two Cowboys right there in the middle of it. Basically, he said, "Okay, we saw the opportunity to cash in on an asset, and so that's what happened to that right there." And I think that Torres probably, if we would have been, I think honestly, I mean, people give FSG a lot of problems and conflict and all that, but I think that we would have had the same issue right there. I think that Torres would have been on the squad if we had FSG back then. I think that Hicks and Gillette basically said, "Hey, you know what? Let's cash in on this. Let's go there and lay down the debt that we put on the club right there," and that's what happened.
Before we go on, let's bring on the Beckenbauer of tonight's lineup, the sweeper, Harry McMullen. How are you, Harry?
I'm very good. Fashionably late, but nice to be with you all.
Oh, I went the wrong way. Oh, I didn't know where the shift was coming. I got Brady Bunch. I went this way and I got fucked. Oh,
we also had to make sure to balance out the two American accents. We put two funny accents as well on the show tonight. So that's how that works out. So Harry, before we go onwards, your list of your three strikers between Kenny Dalglish leaving and Kenny Dalglish coming back, who should have won the league with Liverpool but didn't. Who's your picks?
So I was curious if we were counting players who had won the league elsewhere, but not with Liverpool.
Oh, yeah. Just not with Liverpool.
Because if those are up for grabs, I think a rogue one I want to throw in is Nicholas Anelka, who obviously had a quite short career with Liverpool, only 6 months on loan. But we did win a treble during the season that he contributed to.
Absolute no man.
And he obviously really good player. There was a clip I saw this morning actually of David Seaman talking about he trained with Anelka at 17 and Thierry Henry at 17, and he said at 17 years old Nicholas Anelka was better than Thierry Henry. Obviously they had very different careers. Henry went to a whole other level, but I think that just goes to show how talented Nicholas Anelka was. And I don't really know anything about this today. He actually was available. We could have got him from PSG that summer and kicked on and we're trying to become a team. Yes, we've won cup competitions, but can we become a league title winning team? And we decided to spend 15 million on El Hadj Diouf to play up front for us. And he went to Man City for 13 million, scored 14 goals for them that season. I think Diouf got 2 in his whole Liverpool career. And that same window, we also spent 8 million on Salif Diao from midfield. And Arsenal spent 9 million on Gilberto Silva in the same window. He obviously went on to become an invincible, and Diao went on to become absolutely nothing. So I think we actually could have spent 1 million less and brought in Anelka and Silva and probably won the league title that season. But the quality of those two players, and instead we bought Diouf and Diao, and the rest is history.
Well, you're the two.
Those D last names, man.
Have you got 2 others, Harry?
Oh yeah. So I imagine we probably already mentioned Michael Owen. I didn't know if he counted because he'd won the league with Man United. But if you win a Ballon d'Or while you're at the club, probably you're a pretty good striker. So he should have won the league. And then I would have gone with God for my third one as well. I think Robbie Fowler's only just given up the Premier League all-time goal scorers record to Salah last season. So for him to have the second most league goals for Liverpool and not have a league title, I think is a bit of a travesty. So I think I would go, in terms of that time period, I would probably go Fowler, Anelka, and Owen.
So let me ask all 3 of you. Just you can chime in. Let's say Brian, Trevor, and then Harry. We seem to have, just from these lists alone, a lot of strikers who left us in bad circumstances. Are we cursed in some way, shape, or form with second strikers? There's Anelka, there's Fowler, there's Owen, Torres. I'm sure Dirk Kuyt got upset with somebody on his way out. Maybe somebody said, nice face, and actually meant it. But yeah, we seem to pick the temperamental ones. Luis Suarez later on, even though he's not part of this particular list, we do seem to pick them when it comes to the temperamental stakes, don't we, Brian?
But aren't most forwards temperamental? I mean, it's kind of like what you get with them for the most part. You don't get like this. They're greedy. They go out. They don't share most likely. Look, we had a whole rivalry between Mane and Salah for a little while right there. That was happening. That's what forwards do. I mean, Bobby Firmino is like the unicorn of all forwards right there, that will actually give. Every other forward right there is actually, I'm going to go ahead. It's my goal. I'm stealing it. So, I mean, kind of what happens. I mean, I think that all these guys right there, some right there forced their way through, some got forced out, and I think that this is kind of life of footballers.
Trevor, do you think, because we've mentioned Dirk Kuyt, and Vickler's obviously a big fan, but did Dirk Kuyt suffer maybe from being forced to play out on the right a lot and not in the central striker position under Rafa? Because he did have a habit of playing players in tactical roles rather than where they could be most effective.
Yeah, I think Dirk was always one of those guys that he was never going to bitch about being played out of position, though. He kind of just was that yeoman where, all right, I'm going to go do what I got to do wherever I'm deployed. And I'm going to look like not necessarily the head of a criminal organization, but I'm like a henchman. He's definitely got those vibes. But yeah, Dirk Cat was always one of those guys that I loved in terms of his work rate and also his clutchness. He was always that guy that you could rely on in. And everybody's gonna go back to that. What was it, like 90 plus 27 penalty that he hit? But he was always that guy where in clutch situations, whether it be taking a run off a set piece or making a play happen in the dying embers of a game, Dirk Cout was that guy that you could rely on to at least make something happen. And the fact that he did not get more goals, yeah, that's just a product of where he was in the time frame. But Dirk Cout ruled ass. Full stop.
Harry, in terms of Robbie Fowler, I mean, he was God, obviously. He was like probably the most natural English goal scorer since Jimmy Greaves, if you're old like me and can remember him even playing. But he partnered Ian Rush up front. He partnered Stan Collymore up front. He partnered Michael Owen up front. He played on teams with Steven Gerrard, and yet still no league title. Is it possible to build a team around? And you need to make him as like almost a luxury player these days.
Yeah, well, I think there was a role, like the old school like poacher, right? You know, like the like Fox in the box style player. I think that was like sort of phasing out of the game right as he was one of the best at it, and it became, you know, more and more difficult. And I think that actually, ironically, even though he didn't really thrive when he came back under Rafa, he wasn't really given the chance to. I think Benitez had a good way of, he would kind of set up the whole team structurally to be solid and defensive first, and then rely on, you know, these players who could do amazing things like Gerrard or Torres, or these players that he would bring in to go, we'll keep a clean sheet and then you do the rest. And I think actually having like a moments player like Robbie Fowler in a system like that probably would have been more effective. But and we're going like right to the beginning of just as I was becoming a fan when Robbie Fowler was on the way out. But from what I've kind of read about and heard about since, I think he was playing in a team that was under pressure to win and win well. There's this thing of you have to win and also you have to be entertaining and stuff. And I think they probably actually were quite fun to watch and didn't really get the medals to back it up.
From all three of you, is there no love for the legend that was Sean Dundee? What's going on here, kids?
Yeah, we had a conversation earlier today
before my time.
where I was saying, you know, we can go back to the 90s if you want, because it's only really Robbie Fowler and you know, Ronnie Rosenthal, really. Macka listed about 10 strikers I'd never heard of straight away, including the legend that is Sean Dundee. So I will never commit Sean Dundee erasure again.
Did he have a penny for crocodiles?
Did Ronnie Rosenthal win the league?
Hey, Dundee was going to be that goal scorer that we never got.
That's not a goal. This is a goal.
So he's Ricky Lambert.
He played goalie before. Ricky Lambert. He's up with the UFOs, that guy at this point. So let's see, who can we agree on? We can agree on Fowler, even if he's not in our list. Definitely should have won the league. Owen should have won the league. Torres should have won the league. Couch should have won the league. Sean Dundee should have won the league. But who shouldn't have won the league? Andy Carroll. No, Andy Carroll was 2010, wasn't he? Yes, Andy Carroll shouldn't have won the league. That bloke drank way too much to celebrate before winning the trophies than he would have after. So he's my answer for that question. But move on to the
question that
next
you
one because
asked
it's a
yourself.
fun night tonight. The next one, yeah, I asked myself. Yeah, it's rhetorical. So top 3 all-time Champions League or European Cup goals. So they can be from any year, and they can be from either the European Cup when it was the pure knockout competition or from the Champions League. I will start. My first and favourite Liverpool European Cup Champions League goal is Tommy Smith's header in 1977 to win us the first one. It was a foregone conclusion in that game. I was a soccer nerd way back in the day of VHS videotapes, and there was a company in England who had all the games, and I watched that till the tape broke. But the best part about it was that apparently Tommy Smith had never scored a header before, and he comes bombing in at the back post or the near post and slots one in to help us win the very first one, which was always the most important. The second one for me is Dalglish against Real Madrid 81. The one where he hops over the fence at the end, a little dink over the goalkeeper from I think Souness's pass. It was just I idolize Kenny Dalglish as far as I'm concerned. He is the Messiah and always will be. And then Emil Heskey against Roma, the 2-0 when Gerard Houllier came back. Such an emotional night. We needed to win 2-0. Littman put us ahead with that penalty early on in the game. But in memory, it feels like it was a tight game. But when you look at the stats, we absolutely put that Capello team to the sword for the entire game. So those are my 3. We'll go with you, Harry, then we'll go Trevor and Brian. Do you have 3 favourite all-time Liverpool European Cup goals?
For some reason, I felt like it was my job to bring some of the more obscure ones. So that's what I went for. So
that's because of your moustache.
Thank you.
True fucking lad.
So I went, we'll say obscure, maybe a little bit unsung. And so I've gone for Andrea Dossena against Besiktas in 2007. I think it capped the 8-0 win, where we played. Reina just smashed a long ball over the top. It got the bounce, and then he lofted it over the goalkeeper. And I think this one doesn't
there
get.
There goes my third.
I think that one doesn't get the credit that it deserves because we did exactly the same thing to United in the league that season. But it was, I think, in terms of pure technique, that one maybe just slight edges it for me. So that's got to be up there. Mo Salah in 2018 against, I think, Maribor in the Champions League group stages. It's the one where the ball gets parried out to him and he sort of chests it up and then knees it and then heads it and then puts it into the empty net, which is just like the most audacious bit of improvisation I've ever seen with a football. And the way that the ball gets parried out to him, it's like totally instinctive. Like there's no way that he could have gone, oh, I tell you what, I'm going to do this. It's just, how do I get around the goalkeeper and get the ball in? It's unbelievable. And a really like kind of tepid little finish after all this like amazing skill. And then one for pure nostalgia for me is Luis Garcia against Juventus in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. 2005, first leg, we were already 1-0 up and the ball just came to him on the half volley and he smashed it over Buffon into the back of the net. We ended up winning that tie 2-1, so it was like the winning goal over 2 legs. And to do it against Juventus, where there's famous defenses, there's really like tight defenses, it was difficult to score against them. Buffon in his prime, 2005, and he could do absolutely nothing about it. And that was one of the earliest memories I have of physically getting up off a seat and losing my mind that a goal goed in, because it was so, I think it just like, it's not like the rhythm of a goal where a goal goes in. It's just like the ball bounced and then he smashed it and we're jumping around the living room celebrating. So my 3, Dossena against Besiktas, Salah against Maribor, and Garcia against Juventus.
Trevor, your 3.
I'm gonna be a bit of a bitch on this one because Harry stole my Dossena, which was supposed to be my dark horse, because my other 2 are cliche basic bitch selections, which kind of throws me off because it was like Salah against Man City. It was one of those ones where it was just that ball, and then obviously Mo is a likely source, but Dossena, and and we're going to talk about another one of those going forward, so I don't want to spoil it. But Dos Santos was one of those guys that just kind of came in and got those goals out of nowhere, and it was just fun. And it was part of a beatdown. You know those games where you want to like just it's like 7 or 8, and you're like, we want to get to 10, like Bournemouth. You're like, I want to hit double digits. That was one of those games, and the fact that was the one that capped everything was brilliant. And all right, so here's my my Chelsea, not Chelsea thing, like Chelsea as a just generic white woman name. Steven Gerrard against Olympiacos. What a hit! So yeah, all of those fun things. That was a great one. Corner taken quickly, because that was the first one that I was in a bar with Barcelona fans, and I have never seen a soul die more than corner taken quickly. Ah! That was an absolutely existential experience. That was just beautiful. So though one was something that I kind of caught afterwards. One was something that I caught during that Harry stole my thunder, but it was something that didn't really equate to anything. And the other one was just my knees are shit, but I really wanted to just take a lap afterwards. It was definitely those are my 3.
Brian, what are your 3?
Well, Trevor got one of mine right there. Was obviously the Steven Gerrard Olympiacos goal. I mean, because I mean, how can you not include that? I mean, 3-1 that we had to win by 2 clear goals to go through. I mean, that's just amazing. It's just a cap of Steven Gerrard's career. You know, of these like net breakers that he's scored right there. So my second one was the Xabi Alonso rebound penalty in 2005 right there, because I feel like you had Gerrard with the that he had the goal, you had Smeezer with the goal that shouldn't have been a goal, and then you have Xabi Alonso right there. It was a great save, but a smash and grab it. You knew we had the momentum by that point right there that we were going to go through with this. And then my third is the Luis Garcia Chelsea goal. I mean, because it fucking crushed their souls right there, when we scored that goal. and I loved every second of it. But I did have one more right there, but that is not a European Cup one. It was Gary Mack's goal against Alves in the UEFA Cup final. I mean, goal to goal, walk off right there for the pitch. I mean, you can't get any better than that right there. I mean, it is like capped off the cult of Gary Mack, which is plenty of us are a part of.
Gary Mack. Oh, Justin. I'm sorry.
I mean, if that other competition's up for grabs, then I want to bring up the Sturridge banana split that should have won the Europa League against Sevilla. Just if we'd have won that game, that would have gone down as like one of the greatest cup final goals. And as it is, it's a footnote because we didn't.
Yeah. So here is my question, and I will go from Harry back around again. There's for a club, other fans sometimes mock Liverpool fans for thinking our club is a little bit special, but we all know our club is a little bit special. How many other clubs have the kind of moments that we can talk about that are dramatic? Like just listening to you guys talk, it just reminds me how many times we needed 2 goals to get to qualify, 3 goals to get into the next round or something like that, and we managed to do it regularly. Harry, how special does that make Liverpool Football Club?
Well, I think we're in a sweet spot where like we're in these competitions regularly enough that we expect to be in them and we expect to have these memories and we have a big history in them, but we're not so like streets ahead of everyone else that we just win every game 5-0 or get knocked out. So I think we're constantly like in it to win it, but the first leg doesn't go well or the first half of the final doesn't go well or whatever. And I think that because you look at like a club like Barcelona, they have that one famous comeback, but like that's a salvage job for them. They're expecting to comfortably win most games because they're one of the best teams in the world, whatever. And so is Liverpool. We have these peaks and troughs, and so I think that makes us special. That there'll be years like the year we won it in 2005. The quality of that team probably shouldn't have even been in the competition. Like we were a UEFA Cup team that happened to be playing in the Champions League, and so to dig ourselves out of these situations over and over again, I think that's kind of where our club often sits. And so we've got this really rich history of backs against the wall, probably shouldn't be winning this game, but until it's over, it's not over.
Trevor, what do you think? Is it a numbers game almost for Liverpool because we're in these competitions so often, or is there something, especially as opponents often talk about the Anfield effect, is there something special about the club that's almost predestined to have these magical moments?
And I think that's something that draws a lot of people in. There is that bit of you want to just kind of just amalgamate it all to the word magic, because it is something magical. What in whatever sense you want to put that word magic towards, in terms of whether it be something that you can't believe or something that is just kind of out of body experience. The things that Liverpool brings to the table, especially in European competitions, is just not on par with anybody else. I think there's teams that have come close to the way that Sevilla runs the Europa League. That's stupid. The way that they they'll go into it as one thing, and then even if they drop down from the Champions League and then they just go and win it. The way that they kind of deal with that is its own separate thing. But that's kind of more business-like, where they're just okay, we're Sevilla, we're in the Europa League, let's go win it, and then we'll get knocked out of the fucking Champions League next year, and we'll go win the Europa League again. Everything's going to be great. Whereas Liverpool's runs through competitions, there's always that moment of danger, as if it's written by a CBS script writer, and you're okay, oh wait, this is the thing where they go down 2 goals, and we need to bring or we need to bring Luis out line, and then there's so much to put through there, and they'll get there in the end, but it's something where it's just fun, and there's just that overwhelming sense of joy when those moments happen. Whereas for other teams, it seems like just business as usual, where it's not as fun. We bring the fun, even if it's in eventual dismay. The fun is there in the interim.
Brian, in terms of our magical moments, let's say Manchester United have had their success in Europe over the years, but there's almost, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a Liverpool fan, but it almost seems there, apart from the 1999 game when they won the treble, their European moments seem almost sterile in comparison. Is it just something that about the other clubs that they can't generate those moments, or is there something in the water at Anfield and they better not change it or there'll be trouble?
They're sterile because their fan base is sterile also. I mean, honestly. I mean, you could.
I don't know about that. I've seen all their kids. They have lots of them.
Poor children. And then did you report them to the CPS? I mean, but anyway, I think that the thing with our fan base is, we have such a story. I mean, we're like a big storybook. I mean, there's tragedy, there's triumphant, there's moments of that we're going to get knocked out. There's moments where we're a high and then we get knocked out. I mean, and I think that that our fan base right there kind of like revels in that. I think that we enjoy the pain. I don't know how many years I've lost in my life watching Liverpool. I mean, these moments where I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna do it, and then we sort of like, okay, it doesn't happen. Are we scoring like the 95th minute and all that? And my heart's like racing and all that. Those are things that happen with us, and I think that we have a different outlook. I mean, I have fans of other clubs. I have unfortunately a Manchester United fan that works beside me. Poor soul. I mean, but he doesn't have that same exact kind of feel that for the club that we do. It's like it's like one of his teams he supports. It's like I don't support the other team. I don't care for any other stuff like that. I care about this club. I mean, I've always cared about this club like there since I've started supporting it. It's like nothing. Everything went secondary once I started supporting Liverpool.
Let's move on to the next thing, so we don't run out of time to talk. Because this is my favorite topic of the night, even though I wrote them. Favorite top 3 all-time Liverpool Football Club super subs, because we have a fair amount of them. I'll go first, and we go from Brian to Trevor to Harry. And speaking of fair, my number 1 is David Fairclough, the original super sub. There's no better sight to me as an older Liverpool fan than gangly David Fairclough in his shock of red hair, looking like he was getting sunburned from the lights in the stadium, running, not knowing how to celebrate after he scores that goal against Saint Etienne, and running like one of those giraffe calves that you see get given birth on the David Attenborough program, who don't know how to walk for about 5 seconds. Second one would be James Milner. He didn't start as a super sub, but as his career developed and he aged, he was like a warm, comforting blanket made of Ovaltine at the end of a game when you needed to calm the game down. We think of super subs as goal scorers sometimes, but he was the one where we're 1-0 up and we need to keep the 1-0. Let's bring on James, and he'll bore everybody to death with tales of his ironing and his love of Lucozade and orange squash, and then we will just see the game out. And then my last one is Divock Origi, just because of the sheer magnitude of the moments he's been part of for League, Cup, and European games. He'll never be forgotten because of Barcelona, and he'll never be forgotten for making an absolute embarrassment out of Jordan Pickford for that goal against Everton. And he just seemed like a great guy who is now eating every single pie that could be had in Milan, and more power to him. We'll start with Brian, and we'll work our way down to Harry. Your 3 super subs.
Okay, so I'm not going to go in there and go in direct order right there, but of course, Divock Origi right there would definitely be on that super sub list. I mean, just for a go out there and breaking Evertonians' hearts right there. I mean, it's enough right there, just to be on the list. With the pop off the top of the crossbar, knock in. I mean, it's like if you have a song about your goal, I mean, how can you get any better than that? So then my second one there would probably be Djibril Cissé. I mean, because I think that Cissé tore part of his career right there. I mean, especially even with the Champions League final in 2005, he was pretty instrumental in going there and actually getting that comeback going. He didn't score. He has scored a great pin in the final build up right there. But it's like, but as far as like that, I mean, I think that he was really good, was really instrumental in that find. I'm going to throw a dark horse out there who I really liked, Fernando Morientes. I loved Fernando Morientes. I wanted so much for him, for him to come out there and to launch his career with us, and to, to move us to the next level. It never really happened right there, but for me, he was one of my favorite players. I think that he has so much to offer, and I think that we had probably got him like maybe like 2 years earlier. I think that that we would have been singing the songs of Morientes along with all of the greats that we already do.
Trevor, your 3 super subs.
All right. So the first one is Yossi Benayoun. He is a guy that both in the starting lineup and off the bench was an absolute just menace. He was a guy that I loved because as an American sports fan, I always root for the guys that are just the plucky underdog, just because as an athlete, I'm kind of like that bum where I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy is just gonna be that person that brings the energy. And he was one of those midfielders that just never stopped running, never gave up on a play, and he would get like 2-footed tackled and would stand up smiling. Yossi Benayoun, absolute fucking G, top of my list. And from that same era, Fabio Aurelio, he scored an absolute just worldy that if you just go look up Fabio Aurelio goal on YouTube and just watch it a couple times, so whoever person is bootlegging that account really gets their numbers boosted up. Just give them that. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because if you don't know, then you just need to like go know. That's something. But him, if we had a Fabio Aurelio right now to give Andy Robertson some challenge at left back, we would be in better shape. I don't want to throw shade at Costas. I don't. Oh God, I that was almost like a quasi Donald Trump impression, and I want to just immediately fucking nix that. No, we don't want to talk about Costas. We don't want to do that. No, I don't want that in my life at all. Immediately done. And then the last one, just because of the Neil Mellor, just fuck it, just throw him in there. It's good. It was great. He did nothing but like fucking flick his foot at one thing. Great. But all his interviews I've seen afterwards, he's just an absolute just G of a human being. Screw it. He's amazing. Those are my.
He's
three.
a great commentator on LFC TV. He has that going for him too.
Yeah. But he's also a guy that like kind of has that awareness of like, yo, I have. This is what I did, and this is where I'm at now. And he's not like, oh, I was this great player where I'm getting this gig because I was a club legend. You're like, no, dude, I had a good interview going into this job, and they're going to show this one replay of this one thing I did. Alan, I'm going to replace it with a picture
Of Neil Mellor.
I need to get. Oh my God! Now you've got my dander up. You've got this thing. I have like a candle from a wedding I went to on it. There's so much shit that this is what is going to go up in the plant's place. I won it from the American Scouser auction. It's going to be better than the dumb plant that died to bugs on my fucking deck. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. And all right, we got another one cracked. Everything is fantastic.
Harry, your 3 super subs, and let's hope you don't have a mental breakdown about a plant there. Like,
Yeah, are we still talking about super subs?
Sure,
I just got
just
so lost in Trevor's world there. Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
I'm glad that someone mentioned. I'm glad Mackie mentioned James Milner, because he was going to be one of my honourable mentions. It's not just about scoring goals off the bench. Having said that, I think David Fairclough is just the correct answer to the question. 18 goals off the bench for Liverpool, more than anyone else. Daniel Sturridge is second with like 12 or 13. And especially if I remember right, the time that David Fairclough was playing was you could only have one sub at the time. So he was the sub for Liverpool. And no, I don't, and to still be the highest scoring substitute in now the era where you can bring on loads of subs and games can go into extra time and all that stuff. So you have to start by saying David Fairclough. But then I was also thinking about impact of goals off the bench. And so I think Divock Origi's up there. Obviously, the derby goal against Everton. It's great to beat Everton. It's great to win the derby. But also that season, like that goal was worth 2 points. And we missed out on the league by 1. The goal he scored against Newcastle at the end of that season, right before the Barcelona second leg, that was worth another 2 points. And then he finished that season. He came off the bench in the Champions League final and scored the goal that settled the Champions League for us. And so the impact of his goals is off the bench, even though he didn't score the volume that a Fairclough did, I had to put Divock Origi in my list. And then I was also thinking, what is the most impactful substitution in just one game? And I couldn't look past Gini Wijnaldum against Barcelona in 2019 for him to come off the bench and score the 2 goals, including the equalizer that made it 3-3 and kind of set the table for that corner taken quickly goal to finish things off. And also like the technique of that goal, I almost thought about putting it in my European goals list. That second goal where he scores the header to get into the box, find some space, no one's picked him up, and then the ball comes in and he leaps for it because it's a lofted ball, and then it starts to dip, and he kind of, if you watch the tape, he kind of has to like crank his neck to, he's almost over jumped it and he has to direct it. It's brilliant technique to score the goal under those circumstances.
Yeah, he 100% turned into a turtle.
Yeah, right. It was the turtle Wijnaldum goal that made sure we could get to the Champions League final that year. So he was my most impactful sub in one game. Although honorable mention for the same category, Didi Hamann in the 2005 final in Istanbul. Him coming on when we only had 1 sub left after that meant we could change to a back 3. We'd had 3 in midfield, so we could stop getting the run around from Kaka. And once we scored the 3 goals, the 3 goals go in like an hour into the game. It went to penalties, so it went 2 hours. We still got another half of the final to play at 3-3. We've only got 1 sub left. So if we'd have scored those 3 goals going uber attacking, we probably would have flamed out and given up another 3. Whereas for him to come on, give us that solidity, we were able to get in the game and then stay in the game and make it to penalties, which was probably our best bet. So my 3 were David Fairclough, Divock Origi, and Gini Wijnaldum, but I also had to shout out Didi Hamann as well.
So just the last kind of serious point of the night. There's no order for this. Chime in if you have a thought on it. Does this current Liverpool team, as excited as we are about the future, are we lacking right now a super sub?
So, and as much as this will piss off a lot of the morning crew, I think Darwin Nunez is that super sub. I think he is that guy that comes off the bench. And I know it's not currently feasible with Cody being injured, but I think he's that guy that can come in for 20 minutes and turn tired defenses into petroleum jelly. He is that guy that can just make things happen in an instant. And if you give him just a small pocket of time to work, he can be great. And a lot of his times where he has these egregious misses, which I've talked about, and everybody is really harped on certain occasions. It comes from just large pockets of time where he may be a bit disinterested, but if you give him that hyper-focused 20 minutes, you get the best Darwin that you get. And I don't know. I don't want to plug my own shitty piece from like a month ago at this point, but yeah, let's destigmatize being a sub. Let him come in and crush house for 25 minutes. I know I've said like 7 different time frames in this 30 seconds, but yeah, let him come on for 27 minutes and just really be a force to reckon with, and I think he can get more goals off the bench than he could be as a starter. It's weird to say, but that's just where my head's at.
That's something that's coming up in the game, like at the highest level. Teams now are getting substitute coaches joining their coaching staff, and I think that it's something that I would love to see Liverpool do, because they're almost, rather than calling them starters and substitutes, it's starters and finishers. So your job is to start the game and do this, play in this game state. And some of you, it's your job to finish the game. It's your job to see it out if we're winning. It's your job to grab us a goal if we need a goal. And having, I think Darwin's a really good finisher, maybe in terms of his actually finishing chances. Sometimes he misses them, but in terms of coming on and finishing games, look at what he did against Newcastle. He definitely can be effective. And I actually think we might be missing that like one super sub who we know isn't going to start, but we know can come off the bench. But with the 5 attackers we've got, and we only play 3 at a time, when everyone's fit, like we can always bring on, like we can change 2/3 of our attack and bring on 2 really, really good players and give defenders a different problem to solve. I think until the injuries, I think all 5 of them had played every game in the Premier League. And like they've all scored, they've all had moments. Everybody's done well coming off the bench. I think that depth that we've got in attack is maybe our own version of a super sub in that sense, is to have 2. And you don't know which one it's going to be each week. As the opposition manager, you set up for Darwin and then you get him coming off the bench, right? You set up for Jota and then, I don't know, someone else starts or whatever.
Brian,
Okay,
what do you think?
Okay, so for me right there, I think we kind of have a potential 2 super subs. I think Jota is more of a super sub right now than Darwin Núñez. I think that Núñez, when he actually comes off the bench, gets more lost than he is when he actually play the entire match from the start. I think that he doesn't get that great connection that he has with Salah that he normally has from the get-go, because he's like a player that has to build up the process. Núñez right there, for me right there. That's his game plan, is to run at everybody. But for Jota right there comes in and we could say Núñez is misfit. Jota's equally misfit right there, because he finds up popping in the right place right there and pops in the goal right there when you don't expect him to score it. And my other super sub I think we're having on our hands right now is Gravenberch to me right now. I think that we're using him in that type of to facilitate him just by itching him on into the side, but because I don't think that Joe's right now kind of owns that position that Gravenberch is playing in at the moment, and I think that with him just like until he gets his feet right there, he's our super sub at the moment.
There's an interesting conversation to be had there as well about game state, in the sense that obviously towards the end of games, if we're drawing or we're winning, the opponent is more likely to open up to go, okay, we've only got 10-15 minutes left, let's go for it. And I think if your response is to bring on a player who thrives in these like bigger spaces that open up when the state of the game changes, then you're throwing them in at like the perfect kind of game for them. If you start Darwin from the beginning against a team that sits really deep, it's like no fun for him. You know what I mean? Whereas if you give him these, like, you can just sort of stay a yard offside and then just jump onside right before the ball comes. Like, I think that he gets hot for that, and I think he's excited about that, and it plays to his strengths. So sometimes it's about starting him against teams that maybe play more open. Other times it's about bringing him off the bench when the game opens up for him.
It seems like sometimes with Núñez, he gets really frustrated with actually not starting, and I think that he just like flames himself out, and he gets himself so emotional that he gets worse than if you would actually start him. I mean, that's like one of the observations I've watched with him right there. You can see even with this last match we saw. I mean, yeah, he started off the get go, but he was like lost in that match. Against Brighton. I mean, I didn't know where he was at through the whole match. But yeah, I think that definitely see your point right there. With starting with having it as an impact sub coming in toward the end right there to say, okay, well, we've been playing with say for instance like there a Gapco right there, or who's doing pressing, or a Jota who's kind of like maneuvering around the box, like the fox in the box kind of stuff like that. But having Núñez just run right at you. I mean, and then say, okay, what the hell am I going to do with this guy?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up with the threshold question, Is there no love for the legend that is Sean Dundee? Come on, guys.
No,
It's Sean Dundee.
until he produces
Sean
a knife.
Crocodile Dundee, Trevor.
No love for
Crocodile
Sean Dundee until he produces a knife. No.
Hey, this isn't
That's
FIFA
the only
96.
reference I have for Dundee. That's all I got. I'm sorry.
Hey, this isn't FIFA 96 anymore.
That's the one I'm still playing, to be fair. I can't afford the other ones. So let's go to the threshold question to end the night. It's completely nothing to do with, there we go, let's get it right. With the topic of tonight, it's quite simple. Who would you rather be, an Everton fan or Howard Webb? Harry?
Howard Webb.
That's short and sharp. Trevor, who would you rather be, an Everton fan for life or Howard Webb?
I root for a ton of teams that suck, and I like my hair too much. I would rather be an Everton fan.
Bro,
I'm already hairless, so me and Howard Webb have that in common right there, you know. And how would you want to be a bitter bastard for the rest of your life? I mean, right there. At least with Howard
I
Webb.
root for the fucking Knicks. What do you want from me?
But at least with Howard Webb right there, you get your own food served to you, and especially right there, you know, at these officials have their own like special diet and things they can request and stuff like that. I mean, come on, man. I'm gonna be Howard Webb every day. Because I'll get my way. I mean, Everton, you're stuck on 17th for the rest of your life.
I embrace the pain. I embrace the pain.
I would rather be. The only thing about being an Everton fan is you'll at least be, if you're living there near the ground, you're at least near a great team, as Bill Shankly used to say. But I would rather be Trevor's dead plant than be Howard Webb. So it's Everton for me, and nobody wants to be Trevor's dead plant, including Trevor's dead plant.
It's in a good home. It got thrown through the loamy. It is now as part of a mulch in my front garden. If Alan wants a picture of where the plant is now, I can do that. I have these capabilities.
You'll have that for next week.
Really just drive that whole dead plant narrative home.
I
don't think it's something that anybody else gives a shit about, but here we are.
I can't help but notice we had 2 votes for Howard Webb and 2 votes for Everton. I think we haven't quite solved the conundrum, so we need everybody get in the comments. Let us know, what do you think? Would you rather be an Everton fan or would you rather be Howard Webb?
Don't make Alan split. Don't make Alan
get in the comments.
Alan.
Well, I think also
Alan,
if you're going to be commenting on that, I think you should also
don't let my obliviousness
to
the plant be a detriment to you. Just do you want to be a bald, bitter fuck that lets people get away with murder, or do you want to just be sad? Those are your choices. You're sitting on the fence. Oh, boo! Boo!
Oh, man. Alan, you better have the hemorrhoid cream out and ready. For that
man. Oh god, it makes me so sad.
So
it makes me so sad. Like I'm an Everton fan.
Say for tonight,
hey, Macarena.
It just remains to be said, thank you to everybody who's commented and watched us tonight. There's no fantasy football show after us. It's just us lads tonight. Thank you to Harry for joining us, the super sub, the Divock Origi of the Thursday Night Podcast. And we are back tomorrow
the Didi
at
Haman.
American Scouser TV. The Didi Haman we have the American Scouser morning coffee and tea show tomorrow morning, sponsored by Reckless. Less wreck, more flavor in their coffee. If that's not the slogan, it should be. And then we're back next Monday for the Monday podcast and everything else that is usually happening during the week. Make sure you smash the button that likes the account, or touch it gently. It's up to you. You have an old keyboard like I do.
Just gently caress the like button.
Just gently caress the like button and subscribe. Make sure you know what's happening with everything we're doing and all of our updates. Make sure you're joining our Discord channel, or Facebook, or Instagram, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and our YouTube, so you can subscribe to get to know when all the podcasts are happening. Just ready to say thanks to Brian, thanks to Harry, thanks to Trevor. We hope everybody has a good and ultimately boring international weekend, because that's what international weekend is, especially if you're an Ireland fan, because we know nothing's going to happen for us. But enjoy your weekend. Peace out. We will see everybody next week.